Hello, my friends. Welcome to Let's Talk, produced by Wise Mindly Inc. I'm your host, Coach Shay Marville. In this space, we dive into transformative conversations that hopefully inspire you to grow, heal, and have a deeper connection to yourself and to the world around you. So, let's talk, let's connect, let's grow together. Natalie, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love your podcast and I love your energy and spirit.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful for your time, and I'm grateful that we are going to start creating and doing things together. But you've got a very provocative tagline for your company, Pauz.
I do.
Grab life by the ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that means to you.
Yeah, and we spent some time on this. I've had mostly extremely positive reactions. A few people concerned that maybe I was isolating people who don't have ovaries, and certainly that is not the intent. So, it's not meant to be an actual grab your ovaries. It's more a metaphor for take no prisoners.
It would be difficult to grab our ovaries.
It would be hard to get in there. And so it's really a metaphor to grab the spirit of the company, which is, step into who you are unapologetically. As women, we've spent that period of our lives taking care of other people, juggling balls, worrying about our career. I just had a conversation earlier today about a woman who was like, I recognize issues, perimenopause issues in other women, but I didn't really see them in myself. And, that pretty much sums up the DNA of women. And so, it's sort of a shout out to, I don't want it to take ourselves off snooze and off of autopilot and really, take stock. We only have this period of our lives left. It's all we've got, and have no regrets.
Right. And for many women, I don't know what the number is. You're a doctor of public health, so you would know. 40% of our life is spent in menopause.
Most, at least.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a significant period of time to not know what's going on.
Absolutely. And, to not know if you don't have those obtuse symptoms of the hot flash that, media grabs a hold of, television grabs a hold of, we joke about the brain fog, the mood swings, it is a very serious thing. And to struggle through that by yourself, to blame yourself, to say to yourself, just toughen it out. Yeah. We don't want to go through life just toughening it out. We want to enjoy life, and, feel fulfilled and feel healthy.
And live. I guess, I think what's exciting about right now, and what excites me about your company, Pauz, and the women you've brought together to build it, is you are looking at it in this multidisciplinary, multidimensional way. Like, this is a neurological transformation. This is a sexual transformation. This is a biological transformation or transition. It affects your entire life. And for some of us, it affects, everything. Like, I never had, and I don't have hot flashes. And I won't say I'm thankful or not, because you never know when they're going to come. But for me, it was palpitations. I experienced palpitations and anxiety that I had never experienced before.
How scary is that?
It was scary, and it took me doing research to figure out that, this is a sign of perimenopause. But tell me, what was it for you? You've gone from being an iron woman. I think are you still doing iron?
I'm trying. It's been a series of injury that I'm going to blame on menopause.
Okay, excellent. But so you've gone from being, super athletic, high flying career, always, striving for another level in your professional life, having a family, and like trying to do all the superwoman things that we are encouraged to do, to kind of hitting this wall of perimenopause and going, whoa, like I'm not myself. Like, talk to us about your experience.
Not any different than every other woman. It's complicated and there's a lot of things that all came together at one point, but started to wake up in the night with night sweats. And, I thought this isn't a hot flash and I
Mm.
still have my period. So this is just new heart medication. I'd had a heart incident that was a bit of a wake up call that, I am mortal. And then I just started to wake up, and I've always been career driven and, wanted to be the CEO and was, it was all within reach. And I woke up feeling purposeless. I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do in the day. I didn't really care. Um, and, I kept blaming myself. I kept saying, like, get your stuff together. Like, this is ridiculous. And then, through researching, through talking to women, I realized, oh, maybe this could be menopause. I didn't even know the term perimenopause. And then I sought out a physician through a friend of a friend who I knew um, was an expert. And, I can count on one hand a doctor who has approached me this way. And I apologized for being there. And she said, if it's a problem for you, it's a problem for me. And I can't tell you, I can, because I'm sure you've experienced what that feels like as a woman to feel heard and not to
Yes.
have your symptoms and issues sort of washed away as, oh, you're tired.
Yes. Or
And so
it's just
it,
what you have to go
yeah,
through is,
you just
like
deal with
it's just
it. It's
life.
nothing, just deal with it. And so, we talked about options. We talked about hormone therapy. I was petrified of hormone therapy. And, especially as an athlete, I thought, so ignorant. If I take estrogen, my testosterone is going to drop. Well, they're not, it doesn't really work that way. And so she simply stated, well, you can keep going the way you're going, or you can try something new. And so I thought,
Your
oh,
doctor, your
my doctor
doctor
said that.
actually
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where it could have been easy to just, not give me the prescription or just say, okay, you don't want it. So I always appreciate that to this day. And so um, I walked away with the prescription and I thought, okay, well, I can try this and let's see where it goes. And I know, hormone therapy can be a personal decision. And I
Yes.
certainly, think every woman needs to make that for themselves, but I think they need to have the evidence. And so
Mm.
for me, it was a life changing event to start taking hormone therapy. And so, feeling more like myself again, seeing things return, but also knowing that if I don't have those lifestyle habits in place, if I'm not lifting heavy weights, if I'm not taking care of my mind, if I'm not eating more protein, more fiber, hormone therapy is not going to make me healthy when I'm 70 and 80. I'm still going to succumb to the effects of lifestyle habits that are not healthy. And so
It-
that's really sort of the genesis of Pause. It's like this massive matrix because we're complicated. So,
yes.
you know, let's get the education around hormone therapy, but let's help women who want to enhance their lifestyle.
Yes. And then you said it's about your 70s and your 80s. So
Mm-hmm.
is that because what we do in perimenopause and menopause sets the foundation for our future health, like in terms of like our bone health and density and how we feel just physically.
Absolutely. And this is where, the wake up call or the shake really comes. We think we've got another day. We think we have more time.
Mm.
But when your estrogen starts to fluctuate and decline in perimenopause, and you enter into that menopause period, that's the time where you rapidly lose bone density. That's the
Mm.
time when plaques have formed in your arteries, leading to cardiovascular disease.
Mm.
This is a critical time that you can't reverse the clock. You can certainly, take positive lifestyle habits and be healthy, but, and there are certain medications to help rebuild bone, but,
Yes,
those are
yes.
not optimal. So this is really, 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 really the last exit on the highway of life to make significant decisions so that you can live the life you want to live when you're 70 and 80.
And did you think like that you were in a kind of depression when you started to go through these changes? Like how did you like I know that you start to identify, okay, this could be perimenopause or menopause or not quite menopause, but did you think that your psychological well-being was being impacted? Did you relate those two? And was it the doctor who talked to you about that?
Well, this is really interesting because this is the complexity of women and the stigma around mental health. So certainly I knew the brain fog, the lack of purpose in my day, like that felt atypical, but I still
Mm.
thought it's just, me being a baby. Because can be hard and work can be complicated.
Yes.
As it relates to the mental health, I've had a history of anxiety that I've had to deal with. Um, and depression. And so, taking into account other things going on in your life,
Hmm.
divorce, in the hospital with heart disease, realizing your mortality. How do
Yes.
you decipher what is menopause and what is life? And so that is why it can be so tricky. And so, we have to ask the questions, is it something else? But we also have to ask the question, is this menopause? And so, if you're reaching your 40s, if
Late 30s,
you're
really.
late 30s, if your, period starts to change a little bit, that's usually a really, really good sign. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And
Mm.
so, why not take the time to start to think about getting help and making decisions?
But it's so difficult though when not all the physicians that you see know actually what's happening to you beyond saying you're going through the change or you're going through the transition. Like I think really it's only in the last few years we've been talking about perimenopause, like putting that term to the 7 years, 7 or 10 years that comes before menopause. So it's so challenging to like as a patient to even figure out how to talk to your doctor about it if they're not proactive.
100%. If I had a dollar for every woman I hear, their doctor dismissed it. The doctor said they were too tired. The doctor said that, they don't need hormone therapy or
Mm.
required a full battery of tests that are not necessary. It is a crisis in Canada that
Mm.
we do not have enough doctors, period. And when you layer in doctors educated in menopause, it is, it's such a scarcity to find somebody. If you want to go to an obstetrician gynecologist, they've probably only had an hour of training, and so they're likely not an expert. Plus you're going to have to get a referral, plus you're going to have to wait the months to get to see them.
Yes.
So, my biggest advice, because it is the elephant in the room,
Mm.
my biggest advice is, certainly we want to help women, guide them to clinicians that know what they're doing. The second is, the North American Menopause Society does have a resource that lists physicians who are certified. That doesn't mean necessarily that they are good doctors, but it helps you move into the right direction. And the other advice I give to women is, you have to be uncomfortable and step into advocacy. And so we are so quick to apologize and leave that doctor's office. But if you sit with the clinical practice guidelines, actually bring them in, get yourself organized. So you can't go there with a list of 20 complaints, but if you pick 3 things that are bothering you the most and are very clear on what they are, how often they happen, how they're impacting your life. These are the things that, are sort of tools to kind of help you, but it is the biggest elephant in the room. It should not be this hard for women to get care.
We just, for so many decades, had no idea, just no idea how massive this neurological, biological transition was for women, that doctors were not being trained in midlife for women.
Absolutely. I mean, and so listen, doctors are doing the best that they can do. So
Yes.
if you look at the situation in Canada for family physicians, there's not enough family physicians. They're trained for that 4+ years time, and they're seeing the whole gamut of issues. And they just simply, the medical curriculum didn't include it. And in speaking with, many family physicians out there, they're saying my practice is aging into menopause, and I don't know I don't know what to do. Um, and so, I have empathy for those doctors, but we need to close the gap. We need to close
Yes.
that gap, and in a quick way. And so maybe that doesn't look like, expensive, costly, long training. Like maybe there's another way to go about it. The other thing is physicians are not reimbursed um, in a way that reflects the time required to have a menopause visit.
Mm.
And so until we address that, having the access to that care it's just another layer to the problem.
Can I ask you a really personal question? You mentioned that you had a heart condition. Did that start during the perimenopause um, experience, or did it start before that? Because you were, I think you were in a marathon when you figured out or started to have some issues breathing, right? That's how you
Yeah.
discovered it.
So I don't know for sure. I often think, was it actually, in fact, um, partially perimenopause contributing to the situation?
Yes, yes.
And I won't know that answer, but yes, I was at an Ironman race and basically collapsed with an O2 sat of 80, and luckily made it home back to Canada safely, and went right to the hospital. But in a similar situation, my blood pressure was, I can't remember now, but let's say 190 over 110, and I was
Mm.
sent home with a referral to a cardiovascular clinic, and I wasn't going to accept that, and so I left that hospital and I drove down to one of the UHN hospitals and I parked myself. um, and so, these are things that we hope that the healthcare is going to grab, but we
Mm.
have to advocate for ourselves. And so if it doesn't feel right, if the information is given to you too quickly, you have the right to slow it down. You
Yes.
have the right to stay and say, I'm not okay with this.
Just in terms of addressing, like becoming an advocate. So, in terms of becoming an advocate for your own health, is that one of the reasons Pause exists, to help women become advocates for themselves in midlife, like to give them the language and the information? They have to do what they want with it, but it's about informing them so that they feel like I'm armed with some significant intelligence here to walk into the doctor's office.
What we hope is, what our goal is every woman takes a pause, gets the information they need, redefines who they are as a person, and unabashedly goes for it. And
Yes.
so, a corollary of that is walking into a doctor's office, being armed with the information, being armed with the guidelines, doing your preparation with these are my symptoms, and having the confidence to know I know my body. You know the medicine science, I know my body. And so let's work together to figure this out.
The elephant in the room, as you mentioned before, is hormone treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone and their mother is scared about taking hormones and getting cancer. And even though it's now been debunked, it has not filtered to the medical practitioners, or has it and they're afraid because it hasn't been debunked enough? Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So the Women's Health Initiative study in 2002 was a massive study. They had some women randomized to just estrogen, some estrogen and progesterone, and some a placebo. And then within that, they had different subgroups. And when they did an initial analysis of everybody together, they found an increased risk of stroke and breast cancer. So they halted it. Everyone stopped prescribing. Um, and, from that, hormone prescriptions dropped, I'm just ballparking this, but let's just say 70 to 90%. And despite, when they actually analyze that data actually shows the women in the estrogen arm had a decreased risk of breast cancer. And it also shows other benefits with both groups of reduced risk of cancer and other all-cause mortality. So to your point, it hasn't trickled down. And so the guidelines have been updated to reflect some of the benefits of HRT and, support its use, and support its use within 10 years of your last menstruation. So, I don't have an answer for why it takes so long to trickle down, other than we have few physicians with huge practices, a lack of time. And so what precipitates them to decide, I'm going to invest time into learning about this topic?
Right.
Um,
Well, I guess they could say, like, look at the data and look at the percentage of people in my practice that are women. And are they over 30? Are they over 40? Then if they are, I better get as informed as I can.
well, and I would think that the College of Family Physicians would be doing something about it en masse. I would think that they would be, every family physician has to be a member. I think they should be doing something en masse to correct this.
Well, you've said I've heard you say in the past that we need a revolution in terms of care for women in midlife.
Absolutely. And, shockingly, um, the family physicians I've spoken to are actually, women and of my, our demographic. And so
Yes.
it's perplexing to think that they think there's nothing that can be done and you just have to live through it. Um,
I,
Especially, it's hard because we live in this world where we're hearing and seeing all these, hormone related information and menopause. And so, I like to take a step out every once in a while and do a gauge, because you feel like, oh, everybody knows now. And it's, um, but it's, change is slow. So overall, regardless of who you are, change is slow. And so this feels painfully slow, but there are signs of progress happening with, the increased information. We have a lot of physician influencers out there
yes.
helping women.
Yes.
And so those things are positive. And I have to think that this, I shouldn't say I have to think, I know this isn't going anywhere. We are coming
Oh,
together as a group and we
totally.
won't take it anymore. And so,
Totally.
our mothers and their mothers, it's a different generation, but we're not accepting this
Yeah, no,
situation.
I think we're in the age of this is absurd to not pay attention to this and to be gaslit into
Hmm.
thinking that this is just in my head.
Hmm.
Uh, but we used to talk a lot about lifestyle changes, and now the term like sort of metabolic health is being used more in terms of it's correlated to lifestyle, but in terms of you sort of managing your health and well-being. Is are you doing work around like metabolic health, like movement and exercise, nutrition, and the impact of that and stress reduction on perimenopause and menopause symptoms?
Yeah, so those are the core pillars of services that we're looking to support women with. So, you know, it's the okay, well, this is the information for things that are helpful. Your
Yes.
insulin sensitivity, for example, drops during menopause. And so, being mindful of how to keep your insulin levels stable and
Mm.
manage your blood glucose, which, helps not to store fat, as one example. And so, um, you
I
know,
just smile
uh,
because
who doesn't want to just be able to eat what I watched my teenagers and 20-year-olds just like mow down. I'm like, oh, namaste.
I know. My
um,
daughter's waist is like it's so tiny, and her appetite is, I love it. Like I think, she's a great eater, and I love it. I love to see her eat, but she also moves, and she doesn't overeat. But I love to see what she can eat because it's not fully possible for me.
well, and I think of the diet culture we grew up in, and I don't think our daughter's generation, maybe it's naive to say, but I don't think it's as deep as what we
Mm.
went through. I hope it's not.
I
Um,
think it's different. I think it's
yeah,
different, and I just feel like there's so much shame for women in the narrative of how we live, whether it's about the food you eat, your body shape, and then like it just gets worse as you get older. Like and like my husband and I, we argue about this all the time. Where you'll say, "Well, who exactly is
mm,
telling you these things?"
hmm
And I'm like, well, it's not that there's one group who's saying it. It's that somehow there's a narrative. Grow old, but don't get old, right?
yeah,
Uh, get older, but stay young. Don't gain weight, and be ashamed if you do. And I just feel like for women, I think some of why we can't get help is because there's so much shame around aging, and so many women don't even, they can't see it because they don't want to think about, oh, I could be getting older, and that's a
for
great
sure.
thing.
For sure. There's, I have some of my dear friends, when we're talking about the business, they'll say, Natalie, I just don't want to think that I'm getting old. So, your topic is like, and then, a few weeks will pass and they'll reach out and they'll be like, okay, um, and so, but to that point, like, that's part of the pause is pause, stepping back and not taking it anymore. So just releasing all of those narratives of who you are and who you need to be, and just
Mhm.
don't care anymore and be yourself. And
Okay,
so
well,
if that looks like, judgment, who cares? Who's judging you? Who
yeah.
cares? Who
Well,
cares?
I've got three questions for you
Hmm.
that are about changing women's lives once they get over 37. And it's in regards to money, love, and sex. In terms of midlife and starting to change your life and, go through all of these experiences, do you think we should be talking about money more as women? Should we be, instead of like winding down, should we be winding up with
We
in terms of
should
money
be
and making money?
cranking it up. I mean, well, so here's the thing. So, in terms of making money or financial acuity,
Both.
yeah, I think similar to health, women don't typically like money or
Mm,
talking about, they like it. We like it. We all like money.
yes.
And so, personally, living the not knowing how to manage finances, not knowing how to do things, I can tell you the sense of self accomplishment and confidence from taking control over that and doing it. Um, in terms of making money, I think, you know, my perspective is health, happiness, relationships are at the core. And so if you're invested in making more money that's, taking time and stress away from you, I'd ask what
Mm.
the trade-off is at this point, because does it really materially change your lifestyle? Um,
Hmm.
and, it would be pretty hard that that's what's happening.
In terms of love, let's go to love before we go to sex. What do you think women should do to bring more love into their life in midlife?
This is a very complicated, this is like a full day conversation. I mean, I
Let's do
think,
a conference
you
on
know
it.
what, we really need to, because, first of all, when you look at, systemic hormone therapy, there's two sort of types of hormone therapy to think about. The systemic hormone therapy, which is impacting your whole body, and there's vaginal hormone therapy. And that is
Yes.
estradiol that you're using just on your vagina. And the reality is, and I can send the link to some photos, but when you look at the vagina of 20, 30-year-old, and then you look as they go through perimenopause, menopause, the atrophy, the skin thinness, the dryness, taking vaginal estrogen is a health prevention thing. And so I actually am a big advocate of vaginal estrogen. Um, and so that is my number one thing is, you can't want to have sex if it hurts, if your libido
Yes.
has tanked because of hormones. So that's sort of number one. And then, we should be having like the best sex of our lives. Like as women stepping into this phase of life with a little bit more confidence, a little
Yes.
bit, feeling better in our skin, a little less caring about what other people think, and a bit more time, hopefully,
Yes.
because, maybe kids have left the nest, or, you've mastered your career and you're delegating a little bit more. I don't know what that looks like, but you should be. And so, but I think that so many women have just been so busy and are so tired.
Yes.
They haven't paused to rest and remind themselves of what that sexual wellness feels like.
Yes. Or
Um,
if they've ever even had
if
sexual
they've had
wellness,
it, yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah,
We should
yeah,
do we should do like a conference on this because I feel
yeah,
like we also like with a lot of the stuff around perimenopause and menopause, it's all about like the 1000 negative symptoms. But this symptom is a really big one, but it's also like the one where it can change how you feel.
yeah.
If you are having great sex or
A
you
hundred
enjoy sex
percent.
or you feel like you're more confident about your body, and that's not about the
100%.
number on the scale, but
No,
like,
it's not at all. And all the things you can do to make that sex life great are actually great lifestyle habits as well, right? So, practicing mindfulness.
yes,
It's interesting. This might be TMI, but I went to bed last night and, I had a million things racing around in my head. And so,
of course,
in that mindset, how are you going to actually be present
relax.
and relaxed and engaged? And so, certainly like helping women with understanding what sexual health is, understanding, they have a right to want to have a healthy sex life, and guiding them through, practical things to get there, I think is like so impactful and so important.
I teach a class on, and I'm training teachers to look at the relationship between laughter and meditation.
Mm,
And one of the outcomes is that your body is more relaxed and you are releasing tension and you're just like really fully in your body,
mm-hmm,
and to have great sex and to love yourself, you need to be fully in your body.
mm-hmm,
So we should
100%.
do a conference on money, sex, and love. So last question, like how do you feel about finding love in, midlife? Like this is really hard for lots of people, men and women.
Yeah. And, this is, it's a tricky topic. So, and I try to lead with authenticity and just sort of not, and being transparent, but also mindful of, children and those types of things. But, when I got married, I was young and married to a very lovely person, had two children. but didn't have that relationship that I defined as, a partnership in fun and laughter and decision making. And so, you know, eventually, probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was to get divorced. And finding love later in life, you appreciate what you've been through. And so, some of the small mistakes that you make that build over time, you're not going to make them again. And so those could be as little as sort of, swishing somebody away when they come in, or, saying, no, I've got too much work to do. I can't do that. Or, staying up an hour too late so that when you go to bed, there's no pillow talk. It's really small things that a relationship that was grounded in fantasticness can be eroded.
Yes.
So I feel extremely grateful and lucky to have love later in life, and very committed to not letting that go.
Right. And the more you feel like yourself, or find yourself, and you find that confidence in your life, the more open you are, right, to love, and the opportunity to love someone and to be loved back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and so, it's myself contributing to that, like being confident now, not caring as much. There was a part when I'm younger, and I'm not, by society's standards, like a heavy person, but feeling unconfident to be naked, like until I'm in my 40s. Like, that's ridiculous, but I don't think I'm alone, so I'm going to say that.
No.
And so it's partly yourself, but it's partly, feeling in that relationship safe to be yourself and to be vulnerable. And so, that's how, it gets complicated, and it needing two people at the table to provide that.
That's right. Listen, what kind of impact do you want to leave with Pauz? What's your main goal? Telling women to love themselves and to slow down. What is it?
The main goal is that women invest in themselves, to pause, to figure out what life they want to have in their 70s and 80s, and feel empowered and supported to do the things they need to do to get there.
Awesome. Dr.
Simple,
Perkins, thank you so much. The doctor's in the house. I love that you've taken your PhD in public health, and you have created an enterprise that empowers, educates not just women, but about women in a time of their life where we often are invisible. So I'm so grateful for you, and so grateful for what you're doing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My friends, thank you for joining me on Let's Talk, produced by Wise Mindly Inc. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take action, reflect, or embrace on a new way of thinking, on a new path. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you did, don't forget to subscribe, share, and even leave a review. Reviews matter. They allow us to do way more than we're doing now. Let's continue the journey of growth and well-being together. Until next time, I'm Coach Shay Marville. Stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep talking.